With all of this recent wildly obnoxious weather because of representatives turning a blind eye, celebrities in their private planes and big parties with immense amount of waste, genocides that result in mass death and poisoned land, water, and agriculture, burning fossil fuels that are meant to stay in the earth, farming livestock, deforestation, and of course the ever-growing microtrends in overconsumption that is being pushed on us by the media. It is very unfortunate to say that we are officially in a climate crisis. But don't let these evil, mean, nasty, horrible, ignorant, rich, terrible, nasty, rich people get you down. Because we, the people who actually care about the earth, can do so much to combat their gross behavior. So for today's video, I will be sharing some eco-friendly tips and tricks and hacks and DIYs that are super simple yet super effective. So if you want to learn more about that, stay tuned. Since the very dawn of my time, I've cared about the earth. And one of the most influential and pivotal moments of my childhood growing up was when I first watched the movie WALL-E. That movie did in fact traumatize me a whole lot, and it also sparked a little thing called eco-anxiety. Sometimes I just get nauseous and I want to blow chunks when I think about the earth for too long. Now, it's said that this upcoming spring and summer is going to be a heyday for bugs and insects, and yeah, for us humans, that might not be the coolest thing, but for other birds and small critters that like to dine on those things, it's gonna be a great summer for them. And a wonderful way to encourage more pest-eating critters in your area is by planting native plants, wildflowers, and habitats that promote biodiversity. Whether you like to dig deep and get your hands dirty in soil, go scavenging through resale shops and find wonderful secondhand finds, or repurpose trash into something that will further remove trash. I'll let you know about... You'll see what I mean. I feel like I could really make this video into multiple parts with how many green tips and tricks and hacks and DIYs I have up my sleeve. However, I do like to keep all of my videos on the sustainable side. So you should go check out my other videos. But anywho, let's get into the super green, eco-friendly Earth Day video. Of course it's good to celebrate Earth Day and Earth Month, but the best way to make a difference is to actively strive to do your best every single day. Fortunately, you can do most of these hacks during any time of the year, no matter what climate you live in. So, let's get started. First up is biodegradable confetti. They sell a pre-made, which is accessible and simple, but making your own is a lot more fun and it will save you money. I've tried to make my own DIY biodegradable confetti before with your standard size hole punch, but sadly the bits were too tiny to see in any photos. So I've been scouring the thrift stores and online secondhand shops, and I finally scored some secondhand hole punchers just the other day. Now unfortunately, it's a bit too early in the season for any large leaves or petals, so I can't give you the best example, although I do have this all-natural paper that's thick and quite similar to a leaf, though hopefully these hole punchers will work a lot better on a crisp, freshly fallen leaf. A wonderful alternative to this is 1. Using biodegradable paper cut into tiny bits, or 2. Using dried flower petals. Helicopter. Seeds, or any other natural biodegradable substance. I love this hack for adding a special magical touch to my portrait sessions, and it adds so much depth and movement. Plus, it's just beautiful. If you weren't aware, I'm the proud CEO and head photographer of Sharp Shot Photography, my very own photography business. Our focus is on shooting sustainable and eco-friendly portrait and product sessions, so stay tuned to learn more about that. Do you like to save money and watch things grow? Do you hate wasting food? Well, this DIY is just for you, because it's time to regrow celery from scraps. I only thought to add this DIY a few days ago, so unfortunately I don't have footage of what the celery heart originally looked like, but it was something like this. Literally all you need to do when you're done eating your celery is just take a shallow dish or cup of water and place the base in, but making sure it gets bright and direct light. You'll probably need to add water every other day because these puppies grow quick. I found that you can plant these after the roots have reached an inch, which they already have, so it's about time I planted it. Notice that slimy sludge decomposing on the outer layer? Yum yum! Here's a reminder to keep a close eye on your propagations. So I removed that nasty bit and got to planting, making sure I'm using garden-safe soil, not potting soil. Potting soil has chemicals and pesticides, which you do not want to consume. But because at the time of filming this, we were still seeing signs of snow, and I wanted to keep a close eye on it while it was growing, I potted it indoors for the time being. But when it warms up, I'll transplant it outside into our garden. But luckily, these guys can actually handle a little bit of frost. And a huge plus to having these outside, whether you want to eat it or watch it grow, you'll have beautiful flowers which will attract bees. What do you do with bananas that are on the verge of spoiling? Well, you can make them into a delicious smoothie, or you can make it into banana bread. This is another last-minute addition to my food repurposing segment, but it is certainly my favorite. We had a few bananas that we had forgotten about, so my assistant became a chef and made a loaf of banana nut bread. A super simple and effective way to cut food waste. I definitely prefer nuts in my banana bread, though I know some people just don't like to have that extra crunch. But the loaf turned out absolutely beautiful and smelled so delicious and tasted so scrumptious. I highly recommend. Going off of repurposing food scraps, you can actually repurpose almost any kind of plant, and this is called propagating. I guess I could call myself a pro at this point, seeing how I have my very own micro nursery in my bedroom because of this. And if you want to check out all those propagations, as well as every other plant in my abode, then be sure to check out my plant tour video, which will be linked below. But anywho, this super neat trick has given me who knows how many free plants, aka free gifts for other plant-loving friends. This one pothos plant that's over 20 years old has given me well over a dozen new plants just from taking cuttings. And do not worry, if you correctly cut the plant, no harm will be done and the original plant will continue to thrive just fine. Just be sure to always research what you're working with. Back to propagating. My grandma gave me this old cilantro plant that was neglected and had root rot. So I took it home, cut off the dead rotten ends, stuck them in water until new roots began to grow, and now that it's warming up, it's ready to be planted. It's been about 2 weeks since planting this, and there's already a much deeper shade of green. They're much sturdier, and there's already new growth. They're supposedly going to bloom yellow flowers, so I'm really looking forward to that. And maybe I'll do an updated plant tour. So we discussed repurposing and propagating, but what about starting from scratch? Growing your own plants and food is just as easy to do. Not only is this one of the best ways to have fresh organic produce, but it is such a fun hobby and pastime. You can repurpose your own food scraps or start straight from the seed. I've been in the propagation zone for a hot minute and I don't recall the last time that I actually planted a real seed, so luckily I have these ponderosa pine seeds that have been hiding away and they are super simple to grow. I started with a small nursery pot full of damp potting soil. I then placed the seeds on top, covered that with a bit more soil, but making sure not to bury them. The instructions said to cover the top with plastic wrap, though these were meant to be for winter so they can plant them in the spring. Oopsie! I should have filmed this a while ago, but hey, I just found this in my stash. So keep an eye out for next year's Earth Day video when I hopefully get to plant this outside. But for now, I'm going to keep it covered in our plant box window and it will get loads of sun and positive vibes from the surrounding plants. And hopefully one day this will be a beautiful 80-foot tall pine. Around the time when the coronavirus began, and I was on the official Barbie Instagram account, and I saw a video from the Barbie Vlogs era where she made her own DIY bee hotel out of rolled up paper. I then scoured the internet and found the video here on YouTube.
All you're gonna need is an empty container, some tubes, I used rolled up magazine pages, and a string to hang it with. Roll up the magazine pages into tiny tubes, pack them in tightly, and then use the string to hang it in the sun.
And then I looked into the newspaper hotels further, and turns out they really aren't the best solution unless you really plan on taking care of the upkeep, because it's paper and staying outside will cause some things to fester. While she did give good tips like making sure to hang it facing south, I don't know what kind of magazine paper Barbie was using, but if it has any synthetic dyes or perfumes, then that is an absolute no-no. So I will be opting for wood. Recycled and repurposed wood, of course. Making sure that it has no treatments whatsoever, just plain old wood. Then, me and my other assistant destroyed, built, and destroyed this birdhouse. And then we repurposed some sticks and logs that have fallen from our trees over the years, but making sure to not use anything that was rotten or decomposed, because that will only invite bad bugs. Also, these cannot stay out year-round, especially if you live in environments that experience all 4 seasons. They'll need to be taken down, cleaned out, and stored away until early spring. Otherwise, you'll have a gnarly bug infestation in your vacant hotel. Gardner Scott's video on making your very own bee hotel was a lifesaver. Not sponsored. Plus, I learned so much about bees, which really blew my mind. The most common type of bee is the honeybee, though in America alone, there are more than 3,600 species, and worldwide there are over 20,000. So the bees that you see in your own backyard are most likely a variety, and that's why bee hotels are so important, because there are multiple areas with varying sizes that promote a safe and diverse habitat for these little guys. And I guess while I'm talking about bees, I should share the fact that when I was a tiny tot, I thought they were oh so cute, and I tried to pet one and of course got stung. I then learned my lesson there. Well, I guess I didn't. After you brush your beautiful furry friends, what do you do with their fur? Toss it in the trash? Let it blow away in the wind? A few years ago, I saw some of those little cage wire bird feeder thingies in their yard, except that they are filled with dog hair. I asked the owner, and they said that birds love to take it for their nests. So now Olive is a regular fur donor to her favorite outdoor buddies, who don't really know that she exists, but her impact is changing lives. And by the way, you can use human hair for this too, but be sure that it's 100% hair. No hair products, sprays, creams, nothing. Just plain old hair. And because that's all I have to say about this, enjoy this extra footage of my beautiful baby soaking up the sun. Now on to flower bombs, or guerrilla gardening, which have a very important story behind them, so let's take a moment to listen to EcoPunk's knowledge.
Thank you to the person who left this message because they're right. Seed bombing is technically illegal. That is why it's often referred to as guerrilla gardening. And the short of it is, of course, racism, but essentially native and enslaved people in America sustainably foraged, fished, and trapped on this land for centuries and had a mutually beneficial relationship with plants, animals, and fungi. But legislation like anti-trespassing laws criminalize this practice to quote-unquote protect landowners while simultaneously preventing these groups of people from owning land. And with the establishment of things like national parks, it became illegal for people to cohabitate with public lands as well. Finally, capitalism and industrialization completely detached us from our food and nature, taking away important knowledge like native species. So if you're gonna seed bomb, please be safe, discreet, and informed.
Be sure to look into what plants and flowers are native and non-invasive. We only want to promote growth and biodiversity, not to change up the ecosystem. You can toss these balls anywhere with dirt. Focus on areas that need biodiversity, like in downtown settings, parking lot exteriors, sides of roads, of course in public areas only, or be sure to get permission from the owners. Shout out to Gardner Scott yet again for providing this dandy tutorial. You need clay-based soil in order for these to actually stay together, which will in fact help with the germination process. Though I personally see that this method would be best for plants that need to be planted in autumn, which will have to survive through the winter months. So I'm thinking of going the easier route and doing the salt shaker method with seeds, and shout out to Mr. Bloom for this awesome b-roll. I don't actually have a spare shaker at the moment, but that's nothing a little DIYing can't fix. But of course you can always just sprinkle the seeds around with your dainty little gardening fingers, which is precisely what I did. This gorgeous assortment of pollinating flowers is sure to attract beautiful bees, butterflies, and other critters who may like to dine on this flora. I'm really looking forward to this summer for when they bloom. Sand sifters, dirt sifters, trash sifters, Lego sifters, whatever you want to call them, they work wonders. This is a really helpful tool for those who want to find gold, but also for those who like to depollute the ecosystem. I've been wanting to make my own to bring to the beach, rivers, and wherever else in the world that might need sifting. I scored a free piece of this large half-inch metal screen stuff from a neighbor, and my other assistant had a large pile of scrap wood, and luckily some of it was the perfect size and condition for this heavy-duty project. We started by trimming the screen to an appropriate size, then took a few pieces of lumber and cut those to fit the screen as a frame. Glued and screwed the wood together, this is literally never coming apart, then hammered in giant staples to secure the screen. This was the very last DIY project that I had to complete for the video, and it was very last minute as you might be able to tell, so keep an eye peeled for when this bad boy is in use. Going out anywhere in the world, you will see trash, rubbish, litter, pollution, and treasures that have been tossed away. Whether it's from the elements blowing around, or the NyQuil chicken breast brains who litter, it sadly isn't going anywhere. So, we ought to clean it up. Although you can use sand sifters almost anywhere, I understand that many folks want a different approach to cleaning up trash. And the most simple, accessible, and enjoyable way to do so is by doing a trash walk. You don't need anything fancy at all, although I highly recommend wearing gloves. Please wear protective gloves. I like to use old paper grocery bags or takeout bags because they're sturdy and have a good structure. Plus, paper is biodegradable, and it's a secondhand sleigh, though any sort of trash bag will work for this. I also have a wooden poker tool that's basically a giant skewer that I use to stab at trash that's too far to reach. However, I so very fortunately scored this dazzling red grabber tool from a neighbor who no longer wanted it because the handle was loose, but I applied some wonderful leopard duct tape and now it works swimmingly. I was able to grab so much more than I normally would with my trash poking stick. Though, as you'll see, even a poker or grabber can't grab large or heavy pieces of trash, and that's where the gloves really come in handy. Plus, you don't want to pick up anything nasty and catch something. So, the next time you're out on a stroll, take a baggie with you and some gloves, and get to work! And what do you do with all those bits of plastic you found on your walk? Well, of course you can just throw them out with the other trash, because who knows what's even in that stuff. But if you feel like taking a moment to sort and clean, or perhaps you just want to prevent additional plastic from ending up outdoors, the Ecobrick is the perfect hack. I started mine about 4 months ago, and to be honest, I kind of forgot about it. This definitely could have been filled up by now, but believe it or not, Ripley, these take a while to fill. Basically, you add any kind of plastic, but nothing that's biodegradable. And it has to be 100% clean, so no food scraps or oil. Then, make sure the bottom is a solid color of plastic. This really only counts if you plan on sending it to an organization that redistributes them for building, because the bottom of the bottle will be a wall, so a solid color makes it more cohesive. However, you are more than welcome to make an eco-brick just to collect plastic, to prevent additional waste, and just to see how much waste you are producing. But while I'm on this topic, please do not beat yourself up about this, because the food industry, well, every industry, makes it so that everything that has plastic in it and man-made materials, how fun. And to add on to that, the media is constantly putting blame on consumers. Did you know that the term carbon footprint was actually created by the fossil fuel company BP, who hired the advertising company Audley to popularize the stigmatization of carbon footprint? which in reality it all starts from fossil fuel companies, because that's exactly what plastic is made from. And speaking of things that traumatized me as a child, the movie Happy Feet. You may be sitting there like, what? But there's a penguin in that movie who has a pop can holder around his neck, and that really stuck out to me as a tiny tot. And ever since, I've made it my civic duty to cut up every pop can holder ring thing that I see. To be honest, I don't even know how these are even legal, because they are quite literally a death trap, although the US doesn't seem to care about the safety and well-being of anyone.
Butterfly in the sky.
In my personal opinion, I think shopping secondhand, or just living a secondhand life in general, is one of, if not the best ways to live sustainably and to reduce waste. When you buy secondhand, you're preventing the need for new manufacturing, which in turn reduces the use of raw materials and all that energy needed to produce said products. I've been thrifting and buying secondhand for about 7 years now. Literally my first thrift find that I can recall is this striped button-up blouse. And a quick shout out to my recent video. Be sure to catch my entire closet clean out decluttering video where I went through everything, tried it all on, and organized over 300 pieces of clothing. In a little sustainable spoiler, every piece that I'm parting with in this video will be going to an actual person, not a big chain thrift store which will later end up in the dump. And if you want to know more about that gross fact, then you should probably watch this video, after the one you're watching right now, of course. But speaking of clothes, I've actually heard far too many people say that thrifting and purchasing secondhand fast fashion is just as bad as getting it firsthand. With all due respect, literally what are you on? From my point of view, the item is already purchased, so the dirty deed has already been done. And if it's donated and the next step in its life is to be in the landfill, then I say it's more than a-okay to purchase that. But what do you think? Shopping local and shopping small makes a tremendous impact on your local community. Whether you're a small business owner or you just like to support your neighbors, choosing to spend your money and time on another person's own creations is actually life-changing. Take it from me, I know it firsthand. Typically, local and small businesses source their goods and materials locally, reducing transportation and emissions for both the brand itself and their customers. And because the business is smaller, they will consume fewer resources, which in turn produces less waste. Speaking of small businesses, here's another shout out to Sharp Shot Photography. Our mission is to provide a safe, comfortable, and happy environment for the people that we serve, online and in person. Our goal is to help people feel confident and to see the best version of themselves through a sustainable and eco-conscious view by using secondhand props, shooting close to home, and advocating for the use of pre-owned wardrobe for portraits. We capture portraits and headshots, seniors, couples, families, and products. So be sure to follow along at Sharpshot Photo on Instagram. About this time last year, I did my first ever small business haul here on YouTube, and I only showed 2 businesses, one of which I don't want to mention because the experience was so bad. But as a fellow small business owner and someone in the influencer marketing industry who's worked with other small businesses and brands, I have a deep appreciation for them. That being said, I would absolutely love to do another small business haul sometime again in the future. Thrift flipping, altering, mending, clothing swaps, and donating to local shelters and housing centers, and selling is an absolutely fabulous way to prevent textiles from ending up in the dump. Donating to thrift stores is another option, however, I really never do this anymore unless it's a locally owned store that benefits the community and those in need. I do not donate to chain thrift stores. Let me tell you why. Chain donation centers like the Salvation Army and Goodwill mostly cater to upper-class Christians and Catholics. They throw out newly donated items after just a few weeks instead of giving them to those in need. They're ableist to their handicapped and disabled employees and pay them as little as 20 cents an hour. They're homophobic and neglect to mistreat their LGBTQ+ workers, lie about donating to charities while sending the money straight to the company to cause further harm, and of course, they have white cis male CEOs making anywhere up to $500,000 each year. And I know I'm probably missing a lot more, but these are just a few of the very hard-hitting facts that you should consider when getting rid of your items. Local shelters and housing centers are always a wonderful place to donate if you're looking to help people in need and don't want to go through chains or untrustworthy organizations. In the US alone, an estimated 11.3 million tons, equivalent to 85% of all textiles, end up in landfills each year. The best way to combat this is by shopping secondhand, and to use and reuse what you already have. I recently did a major closet cleanout, and while watching other creators clean out videos, I noticed that many people will part with their clothes just because of a simple tear, small stain, or stitching that has come undone. I completely understand that sewing and altering in general isn't accessible for everyone, but if you have the capability to do so and the time, just try it out. You could be saving dozens of pieces from ending up in the landfills and dumps, while at the same time revamping your wardrobe and making it more you. Secondhand shopping and flipping are really the best of both worlds. Other than secondhand living, boycotting, amplifying voices, and using our privilege is definitely the most impactful thing. Israel's genocide in Gaza has been ongoing for dozens of years as a result of political action, inaction, and blockades, all funded by the US and Israel tax money. The recent attacks this previous October have resulted in over 30,000 deaths, with over 1 million children displaced and in brutal conditions, and over 7,000 people missing. Israel has cut off most of the food, water, and aid support, resulting in famine. Waste management facilities have been destroyed, estimating at least 100,000 cubic meters of sewage and wastewater dumped daily onto land or into the Mediterranean Sea. Debris causing pollution from human remains, fire, unexploded ordnance, and other hazardous chemicals, causing further air, water, and land pollution. In just the first 60 days of this recent attack, there were an estimated 281,000 tons of gases released. I am very privileged. I'm white, I live in the US in a safe area, I have a following, a platform, and an audience. We both have the privilege to be on a device right now that allows us full access to the internet. We're able to share messages, to uplift and amplify voices. It is extremely disheartening to see how many people just turn a blind eye. Ignorance really is bliss. The simplest thing that you can do is to remove, soft block, or just full-on block the ignorant. Follow and reshare accounts that are posting educational content. Use your platform. Start a conversation with your audience. Use that privilege. I know you can do it. Gen Z for Change released an iOS shortcut that automatically sends ceasefire emails daily to your local representatives. This is not sponsored. However, if you have an iPhone, I am urging you to download this shortcut. It will be linked in the description along with a brand to boycott that is constantly being updated. The big three are Starbucks, Disney, and McDonald's. Remember that boycotting is not temporary. Boycotting is for life, and it works. In less than 1 month, from November 16th to early December of 2023, Starbucks shares dropped 8.96%, equivalent to losing almost $11 billion, and that is with a B, in less than 1 month, all because of boycotting. In the words of the BDS movement, we must strategically focus on relatively smaller number of carefully selected companies for maximum impact, and that is the truth. Be sure to visit the description for more information. Thank you. If you've made it to this point, comment below what you plan on doing or are already doing with your green thumbs. But also, thank you so much for sticking around, and I would absolutely love to have you join the channel. You will subscribe and like this video, and you will turn on my post notifications, and you will always try your best to be kind to yourself and to others and to the earth. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on my next video, and may the force be with you.